Every day is a great day to delete blood cancer with DKMS. My name's Trey and I'm here with DKMS, the world's largest stem cell donor organization. Today, we're meeting Aaron, who registered to be a stem cell donor back in 2016 and then went on to become an actual life-saving donor. Let's check him out.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm a DKMS donor. So I've actually got kind of a funny / cool story with it. So I was a college student up at Brigham Young University, Idaho, or BYU, Idaho, up in Rexburg, Idaho. And I was walking to either class or to get lunch with a roommate one day. And there was a friend of ours who was gathering swabs for bone marrow. And we saw her and we just went up and we were chatting for a little bit with her. And she's like, oh, you should just like swab your cheek and whatever. And initially I was like, well, I've heard horror stories about bone marrow transplants. Like I hear they have to drill into your bone. And she goes, yeah, but like they do a really good job taking care of you, and like less than 1% matches. So I mean, there's no harm in doing it. It's for a good cause. And I was like, all right. And so I swabbed my cheek and left it. I mean, this was a long time ago. This was fall of 2016, I want to say. And so I didn't think anything of it. And I'm trying to think when. Was it 2022? Yeah, like 5 years later. Because I put my parents' address down because when I wasn't going to school, I was at my folks. And so 5 years later, I was living back in Utah. My folks are from Utah, but I live in a different city. And I got a text from my mom. This was like fall of 2021. And she was like, hey, like there's this FedEx package for you that like arrived at our house. And I was like, why didn't it come to where I live? And I was like, sure, I'll go check it out. And so I went and I opened up the package and it was like, congratulations, you're a match for DKMS and all that stuff. And I was like, what? I was like, really? I was like, less than 1%. All right. And so I thought it was for bone marrow initially. And so I got a little nervous and I started reading and I was like, okay, it's stem cell or bone marrow. And they're like, let's call this number to kind of just chat about it. And I thought, regardless of what it is, if someone's life is in danger and I have a chance to save it, then, I gotta do that. And so, I got on the phone with them and they were like, yeah, it's stem cell. It could be, there's like 5 other people that could be a match. So we just want to take your blood. And if you're the best match, we'll call you back. And I was like, okay. And so I went and donated, my blood. And I still remember my parents telling them about it. And my mom was like, are you sure this is a good idea? And I was like, no, it's like save someone's life. And I remember about a week later, I got a text from my dad and he's like, I've done a lot of research on this. I'd love to offer you like my opinion. And I was like, oh, sure. And so he's like, just want you to be aware of like what this is. Like, they're going to, give you the shot in your stomach. That's just going to like pump you up or like quadruple your stem cell count. And he's like, it's really achy. And I was like, yeah, but I need to do this. And I was like, it's the right thing to do. And I mean, my parents were all for it too. I think they just wanted to be aware that like I knew what I was like getting myself into. And so anyway, I got a call back, I think like 2 weeks later, and they were like, congratulations, you're the best match. Would you be willing to donate? And I was like, yeah, let's go for it. And so I think we set an appointment out like 2 months down the road. I think this was in like, so I got the letter in September. I found out in October or November, and then I was slated for like beginning of January. And at the time, my sister was dating someone. They're now engaged to get married, and he had donated recently too. And so I kind of picked his brain about it. And he's like, yeah, they fly you out and you're kind of achy the day before you donate. And I was like, all right. And then I found out that there was the hospitals in Salt Lake, which is where I'm from. I could just donate there. I was like, oh, sweet. Like no plane ride. That sounds great. And so anyway, I still remember, I think it was like 2 weeks before I donated, I got like really sick. Like I caught either a bad cold or something. Part of me wonders if it was COVID or the flu, but I was out for like 3 or 4 days. And so I had to delay it a couple weeks, and I felt really bad. But I was like, I'd rather you get healthy blood than blood with whatever I've got inside of me. And so I remember going and getting the shots, and the first 2 days I was fine, and then around day 3 or 4 I started to feel achy. And I remember the nurse just telling me, she's like, oh, it's just like it needs to get out of your bones and into your bloodstream, so if you're feeling achy, just go on like really long walks, which worked out for me because I'm a pretty active person. And so I would just take long walks, and that really helped with the pain and the achiness. And then I remember the night before I got like 1 hour of sleep for some reason. Like I wasn't nervous or anything. I just fell asleep for 1 hour and then woke up, and that was it. And then I remember going in to donate. I remember the guy that was donating, or not was donating, the guy that was helping make sure everything went good was from like Australia. And so we chit-chatted for a little. And so he set me up. He put 2 needles in my arm, in both arms. And he said, just don't move for like 3 hours, and we'll let her rock and roll. And I think Tom Brady just announced he was retiring that day for the first time, and that's all it was on TV. So I remember just like watching that. I'm a big sports guy as I was donating. And so we got done, and I left, and I remember seeing just this big bag of blood that he took and like put into a cooler and just booked it out of there with it. And then a few minutes later, I heard back from not a few months, I think it was like 6 or 7 months later, I heard back from my donor, and he was like, I've made a full recovery. I'm going to be great. Like, thank you so much. And so we stayed in contact for a little. And then I kind of dropped the ball on staying in contact with him. I think we went like a year without communicating. And then a few months ago, I was like, hey, like, hope you're doing well. And from what I know, he just got married. They're trying to have a baby. They live out in St. Louis. I'd love to meet him if I could, but I haven't heard from him, so I'm not going to pester him. But he's alive and well from what I know, and so that's awesome to know that made a difference. I think it opened up my eyes that there are people out there that need your help. I remember when I swabbed, I thought I would never match. I had no idea they held onto their records for permanently. But I think, yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I'm a pretty compassionate person, but like it's for sure made me more compassionate. And so when someone's like, I need blood or I need this, like I'm more willing to open up and give to it. And when I hear someone just needs help in the medical sense, I'm like, oh yeah, like I totally remember doing that, and that person's life is safe. I think for me also, like, and maybe this sounds egotistical, like it's comforting to know that, like, you know, while I've been alive on this earth, like I've been able to make a big difference in someone's life. And so I always think back to that sometimes when I'm like going through life. I'm like, well, like if you save this person's life, like they're going to be able to have a family and everything because of you. So I'd say go for it. You're not going to regret it. And the thing is even if you're nervous about donating, unless you've got any underlying medical conditions, like the amount of like pain you have to go through is nowhere near what the other person is going through, and you can make such a difference in their life. I mean, I was a little nervous ramping up to it. I thought I was going to be like sick and everything, but it wasn't as bad. I know everyone's different, but it's worth it. It's very much worth it, and it makes a big difference. So I actually had a friend, she passed away from leukemia, I remember, and she had a blood donor that initially thought got her over the hump, but didn't. But I just remember thinking of her as I was getting ready to donate, because she has since passed away. So yeah.
It's donors like Aaron who give patients a second chance at life. We hope you'll consider being like Aaron and join the DKMS registry today. I'm Trey, and remember, every day is a great day to save lives with DKMS.